I mean, I'll just get right to it. I think that there's a certain energy level that you need to be able to have a chance to coach effectively in this league. I think probably for me, the last couple of years with the losing has been a factor in it. But as we have been meeting and discussing things, I'm just not comfortable that I have I'm ready right now to, give the players what they need from a head coach in order to play well every night. And so as, we talked in this last few weeks, Jeff, Rick, Gabe, and I, it's just I can't do this right now. So it's just best for me to step aside. They've been great. Jeff and I have always had a relationship that goes back for some time, and I think there's a good possibility that I can work for him, which would be something that I would look forward to, and that's where we're at.
Thanks, Coach. I just want to first start by saying really appreciate Cliff. It's a challenging situation, but as he said, we've been in lockstep this whole time, so our relationship has been a huge factor in it, and just want to say thank you to him for all the time, the energy, everything that he's put into this city, the Carolinas, this team, this franchise. He's amazing. He's an amazing person. He's a really, really good coach. He's unfortunately dealt with some situations, some circumstances that have been kind of out of his hand, injuries, things like that. So maybe the record wasn't as indicative of just him being able to, as good of a coach as he is. But with that said, he just alluded to a little bit. I'm really excited about this next phase of him being able to stay on with the franchise. And I don't want to age him, but there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of experience over there that I'll be leaning on. So, as challenging as this situation is, I'm really excited that we'll be able to remain close through this process.
Yeah, a little bit of questions. Just raise your hand. Mike's. Start with these. Jeff, you talk a little bit about Cliff potentially taking on a continued advisory role with the organization. What are some of the things that you particularly enjoyed about what he's brought to this organization and Brooklyn as well that you're hoping to kind of continue on in this next step?
Yeah, I think, again, I want to start with just who he is as a person. He's a man of integrity. He has a wealth of knowledge, experience. At the same time, I think one of the things that the traits that I'm most attracted to about him, he's a lifelong learner. So he's going to teach me a lot in this role, but at the same time, he's curious and wants to figure some things out. So I'm excited to be able to do that with him together.
Coach, this one's for you. You spoke at the introductory coach luncheon 2 years ago about how badly you were to make a postseason run before you ended it as a head coach here in the NBA. Is that something that would drive you to potentially come back as a head coach down the line? And could you get the same fulfillment as a front office guy making a deep postseason run?
Yeah, I hope so. I think that, as we sit here today, my focus is on these last 7 games. I want us, when Jeff, his first meeting with the players, his emphasis was on we want to finish playing good basketball. And I'm proud of what the guys have done. We're playing games that are not meaningful games in terms of the playoffs, and yet these last 2 games are back-to-back against 2 really terrific teams. We're right there. It's 3 minutes here, 4 minutes there. And I think that's how younger players grow, and I know he feels that same way. And so that's my first focus is I want this next, whatever it is, 10, 11 days to be meaningful, for Brandon, for Trey, for Nick Smith. They can all learn. In terms of, my coaching career, to me, there'll be a time to self-reflect after that. I will say this, look, it's not what I wanted it to be. And yet, look, I don't know many people have had a better life than I have. I love this. I love the games. I love coaching. They're the best players in the world. That part, I'll sit down some night with a glass of wine by myself and, whatever. But it's not time for now. In terms of the next phase of the opportunity to learn, from Jeff is that is something that truly excites me. And, you know, we have talked, you know, more so, we've talked a lot here working, but in Brooklyn, we would just sit, you know, I was a consultant. We would sit, we would watch practice. He came to a lot of the staff meetings in Brooklyn. You know, whether it was playoff prep or whatever it was, and we just talked basketball. We talked about players. And so, I mean, he has a great basketball mind, and we just get along well. So that part of it, I think the working together piece now and everything that we do, for you guys too, right? Being able to work with the people effectively that you're near every day is a big thing, and I'm really comfortable and excited about that.
Well, that next question for you too, what do you want your front office role to be? What kind of responsibility do you envision having in this next phase?
I mean, I think, you know, because I'm getting a lot of texts about, you know, I think people would look at it and say, you know, maybe there's an advisory role. Like, you know, like a lot of NFL teams, right? They have an offensive advisor, you know, like the Panthers had this year, I think it was like Jim Caldwell, right? And that part, listen, I would love to do that. I think it'd be fun. I'm also, and Jeff knows this, I'd be just as interested in learning the draft, learning how to do free agency. I don't want to do the cap and stuff like that. No, but
Me neither.
but no, just learning from him and the other guys of, you know, I don't know anything about the front office. So like that part is really exciting to me.
Jeff, in terms of what you're looking for the next head coach, how much do you have that somewhat figured out? How much do you want to learn as you go throughout the process? And how comfortable would you be if someone were to have this job as their first job as a head coach in the NBA?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to initiate that process. I'll lead that process in terms of finding the next head coach of the Charlotte Hornets. In terms of what I'm looking for, you know, I want guys who are going to be a true partner with not only the front office but ownership, performance team. Obviously, someone who can hold the players accountable, relate to the players, and get the best out of them. Communicate to them, teach them effectively. Someone who's competitive. So those are a few traits that I'll be looking for as I approach this next process.
Mike said from Charlotte Sports Live, in terms of, you know, we still got 7 games left to go in the season. How important was this announcement for it to happen today so you can get out necessarily in front of the search and maybe beat some other teams that are thinking of making similar moves?
Yeah, very important. I think that's, again, one of the things that Cliff and I talked about in terms of timing. Again, ultimately it was his decision, but respect him because he didn't have to say, like, let's do it today, but that definitely factored into it. There's going to be I think a handful of teams that are looking to replace their current coach or find a new coach. So us being able to get a bit of a head start in that space is very important.
John Treach, WCCB Charlotte. Coach, you're always very self-aware and realistic, but this second round in Charlotte, how much did it really drive home how hard it is to build a team and to make them go from a spot to maybe a contender?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a lot of things. I mean, internally, everybody pulling in the same direction, a lot of things. And you also need to have health, you know. I mean, we went, I think right now we're like 28th in games missed by rotation players. Last year, I think we were 29th. And that doesn't, I'm not sure that counts the Miles games last year either. And it's hard, you know. One of the things is, because I do think it's an exciting time to be part of this. I think the leadership, the ownership, Jeff, and then I also think we do have a good young core. You know, we just played Boston, and I was watching our first game when we beat them here. You know, Melo had 36, 9, and 8. Mark had 18 points, 16 rebounds. So when people, you know, question or sometimes, you know, it's out of sight, out of mind, those guys haven't played for a long time. And you can forget about how much potential each of them have and how different we could be if they were out on the floor. So there is a foundation here. You always want to find ways to get better externally and internally, but there is a good foundation of talent here.
Daryl Horowitz, Queen City, you mentioned injuries, and that's been the difficulty that you had to deal with the last 2 years since you came back. And I think I asked you a little while back about training. Are these injuries just like freak things that are happening, or is it something in the routine? Hornets have had injuries before in the past too, so it's not, first year thing. So is there something that you think needs to change with that? And how frustrating has it been for you that you couldn't have the full complement of players to be able to accomplish what you've been trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing in these 2 years, listen, this wasn't a lot of pulled groins or calves and stuff. These were broken bones, and, Mark's got back, the back stuff, which is bone related also. So these were significant injuries. They were major injuries. I don't think you can blame anybody for that. That's just part of the league. I mean, I'll go back to, if you want to look at this performance group, the 2 years before I got here, they were second and third in health. 3 years ago, Miles played 77, Melo played 75, Terry played 73, and Cody Martin played 71. I mean, that's a recipe for continuity and establishing a way to play that you need. So a lot of it's just luck.
Question for Jeff. Brandon Miller mentioned this morning how he appreciated Coach for not shortchanging anyone in his honesty. How valuable can that be in an advisory role in the front office?
Very, very, because I'm sure they'll get sick of hearing from me and whoever we end up hiring as a new coach. So, I think Cliff will be kind of that, that person that they can go to and confide in at times. So one thing about him, you guys know, he always shoots it straight. And regardless of who you are, you may not like it in the moment, but the players respect that. And I think having that familiar face and voice still within the organization is going to be very valuable.
Cliff, obviously, you've had a lot of great memories here with the Hornets for these both times you've been here. Is there something that really kind of stands out to you that you're going to take away from this place that you're really going to remember with all your time here that doesn't involve Mike Cristaldi?
I'm not even touching that. No, I'm not there yet. It's a good question and everything. I just don't like, we talk every day, and Rick and, Gabe calls in. I want us to finish strong. I want us to play the right way. And, if you want the players to think that way, we got to be thinking that way. And they have done that. So that's where I'm at. There'll be time this summer or maybe a couple of years from now. Look, I've told you guys this from the beginning, and I mean it, is for me, I have lived the dream, and this just happened to me. I didn't grow up. My plan was to be a special ed teacher and a high school coach, and stuff just kept happening. So to be able to look back on it with, right now it's Melo, Miles, Brandon like that. Before that it was Kemba and those guys. But, I've been blessed all the way through. And it's not just the players, it's the people that you work with, it's the people that you get to meet. But I don't want to go there yet. I want to be focused on this game tonight, on Orlando on Friday, on Oklahoma City Sunday. And I want our guys to play well.
Jeff, I know that you and Rick obviously had history together in terms of having guys who were maybe in your circle before. How much will you lean on it, coming from somebody that you guys have a common thread with in terms of your history? Or will you try to look outside of that and be more exhaustive in that search?
Yeah, no, Gabe, Rick, and I are completely aligned from that standpoint of it's gonna be a thorough process. So I think, of course, there are some people that I've known in my past and been able to overlap with, but I'm really excited to talk to some new candidates that I don't have, I would say, as an extensive history with, because again, you can just learn so much. So we'll be very thorough in that search.
This question is for you, rather. Deshaun Brown from Channel 9. On the decision itself, when did you know? When was that moment that you knew that now was the time?
I mean, this has been going on for weeks, as that we've discussed things, and you just get to the point. I think, anyway, for me, again, is I just don't see myself in these next few months having the right energy level. Having the ability to, get up every day. Look, I'm just like you, right? I mean, your best days start when you feel good. That's the way it is. When you're driving in, if you feel not at your best, you usually don't have a great day. You got to get up. And one thing about this is that you're dealing with the best players in the world, and motivation starts with yourself to me every day. So before you can try to get, Brandon's easy one because he's self-motivated anyway, but before you can get those guys to have a good practice, you got to get yourself in the right place. And when that becomes difficult to do, you have to look around. I will say this, the grind of this season at 62 is a lot tougher for me than it was at, say, 55, 56. And, it sucks, to be honest. I mean, because I do love this. I enjoy it. But you also have to think about the players and think about the organization. And, I love Charlotte, too. I love the fans here. People are great to me. And I've enjoyed this whole thing. Even the losing this 2 years has been very, very difficult, but I've loved the players. I love Terry Rozier. I can say that. Melo. I mean, what Miles has done this year in terms of – Miles just played 86 minutes in 2 games. People don't do that in this league. So there were so many things to feel good about, but again – you got to do your part. And you know what? When you're the head coach, you can't pick and choose now. And if you don't think you can get yourself to that level every day, it's not fair to try to do it.
First one for Cliff, then I have one for Jeff. What would be the best piece of advice you would give to the person who does end up replacing you here?
There's no one way to do it. You got to figure out, to me, any leadership position, you got to know yourself. You got to know your situation. In this case, it's the NBA. You got to know how you're going to be comfortable leading, and then you have to figure out the best way you can lead the team so they can win, and that's it. I don't think that regardless of who you work for, look, I worked for Jeff and Stan Van Gundy. I'm not as dynamic as they are, nor as smart. No, I'm being serious about that. I worked for Mike D'Antoni. I'm not as creative. But I have found a common place in this league where when I worked hard, when I worked at having relationships with the players, I could be pretty good at it. And you've got to figure out how you best can do it, and that's what I would say.
And then, do you have a target date of when you'd like the search to be completed by? And also, executives in the league talk about how hard it is to really understand how good a coach is without being in the building and seeing them every day. What's the mechanisms or ways to kind of overcome that hurdle and understand how good someone is at the task?
Yeah, I think as far as target date goes, again, this position's too important to put a date on it, right? I'm gonna take as long as I need to take to fill it. And truth be told, I've started the interview process 10 years ago, right? In terms of meeting people and creating relationships with people, seeing how they interact, whether it's watching them coach at summer league or national teams and things like that. So I try to always observe and figure out a time to evaluate. So yeah, it is challenging, but at the same time, that won't be an excuse, right? We're all dealing with the same challenges as it relates to that. So I have a lot of confidence that I'll be able to figure that out.
Jeff, Steve, Jason Rouse, Spectrum News 1, good to see you both. Steve, you kind of already answered the questions as to why. And I'm glad it's not anything more serious than this than just the grind of everything. I think we all get that. So I'll just go off the wall. Anything outside of basketball that with more free time you're looking forward to do?
I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to work any less. I'm not ready to. I want to be helpful. You know what I mean? I want him to look back and say, you know what, this is good what we created here. This guy helped us. He did find a way. So it's not the work part. I don't think my problem is the work part. I think it's the being in charge part, to be honest with you. Even now, I love to sit in there and watch film. The harder part for me is coming that, look, when you step on the floor with these guys, if you want it to be good, you got to be on it. You can't have bad days. They're going to challenge you just because of the nature of, if you're going to get good at it, there has to be a certain intensity and concentration level. And some of them don't want to do that every day. And if you can't establish a way to practice right, to me, you're not going to reach your potential. So, you can't, it's not, hey, 3 lines, and clap when they do things poorly. It doesn't work that way. And that's the part that, I'm not as I mean, whatever. I mean, it's harder for me. You know what I mean? Like 5 years ago, I didn't feel like it took that much. Like I'm having to get myself ready, for that stuff. And it's just taking too much out of me, frankly.
We'll have two more.
You talk about that grind, you talk about not having the energy. Is it part of it because the business has changed a little? I know 1983 was your first year of coaching. Has the art of it evolved, and how tough is it to adjust to that?
Well, it's definitely different now, even than 3, 4. The clientele is just different, and it's still great. But the challenge is, look, they're younger. Frankly, they're not as prepared to come into the league as they used to be. So yeah, there's more people involved. They've always had their people. Now their people got their people. Yeah, so there's definitely more to it than it used to. And you know what? Maybe that's part of it too.
Jeff, just wondering, what makes this Hornets job, coaching job, in your mind, a good job for somebody to come in here and take over the Cliff? And on top of that, what's your checklist that you want to see for the next coach? Head coach, what do you want to see most about whoever you bring in next?
Yeah, I think, look, I'll start kind of what I was talking about at my initial press conference. Ownership with Rick and Gabe, first and foremost. As I told you guys, like that was a huge reason why I took the job, just because of my belief in them as individuals, as people, and then just their vision and values with us being aligned. So I think whoever we bring in here will certainly fit into those vision and values as well. The Carolinas in general. I don't want to, again, just limit it to Charlotte. Like, Charlotte's an amazing city. The fans are amazing, but there's support all over this region. So, and then, of course, as Cliff was saying earlier, just in terms of the young core and the roster with whether it's Brandon, Mello, Mark, Miles, just those guys, there's a lot to be excited about. So I think all of those factors will be attractive to whoever we decide to hire as the next head coach.
Youth, is it experience? Is it what do you want to see from the guy you bring in next year?
Yeah, I think it's there's a few things, but one, just a lively energy, just to come in and a level of excitement to teach these guys. As Cliff was saying, it's a different generation, so the ability to teach them and help them retain information is important. So that's going to be important. But player development, we are still relatively in this youthful phase, and at the same time, I think everyone can get better. I don't care how old you are and how many years of service you have in this league. You can always find a way to get better. So, a coach who really, truly places emphasis in that area as well.